the warning that fell on deaf ears. The crystalline halls of the Galaxy Council chamber buzzed with countless alien voices, each species speaking in their native tongue through universal translators. High Chancellor Vexithara of the Zephyrian Empire raised her 4 arms for silence, her blue-scaled face showing the weight of command. The emergency session had been called after disturbing reports from the Outer Rim territories. "Council members, we have received a transmission from the human homeworld," she announced, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. A collective murmur rippled through the assembly. Humans were barely recognized as a spacefaring species, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The massive view screen flickered to life, showing a human male in a simple military uniform. His name appeared as Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran Federation. Behind him stood flags and symbols that meant nothing to most council members. "Honored members of the Galaxy Council," Admiral Chen began, his voice steady but urgent. "I come before you today with a warning that may save countless lives across our galaxy. 3 weeks ago, our colony ship Horizon's Edge was attacked without provocation by ships bearing the insignia of the Korthak Empire." Murmurs of dismissal echoed through the chamber. The Korthak were a respected member species, known for their military prowess and territorial expansion. They had been council members for over 2,000 years. Admiral Chen continued. "The attack resulted in the deaths of 12,000 human civilians, including women and children. We have evidence that this was not an isolated incident. The Korthak have been systematically targeting human settlements across 3 star systems." High Commander Zalthek of the Korthak delegation rose from his seat, his reptilian features twisted in what passed for amusement among his species. "The human speaks of lies," he hissed through the translator. "These mammals barely understand space travel. How can we trust their primitive sensors?" Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "We're not asking you to trust our sensors. We're asking you to investigate. The Korthak have violated every treaty regarding civilian protection. They've turned families into target practice." The chamber erupted in discussion. Ambassador Kelnara of the Ethereal Collective, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, spoke next. "Even if these allegations prove true, humans lack the military capability to challenge an established empire. What exactly are you requesting?" "We request that the Council intervene," Admiral Chen replied. "Stop the Korthak aggression through diplomatic channels. If that fails, we ask for permission to defend our people using any means necessary." The chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in what could only be described as laughter from dozens of different species. High Chancellor Vexithara struggled to maintain order. "Human," she said, her tone patronizing, "your species has barely left its home system. The Korthak Empire commands a fleet of 50,000 vessels. They have conquered systems while your ancestors were still learning to make fire. What possible threat could you pose?" Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. Behind him, his staff exchanged glances that spoke volumes. "We're not threatening anyone. We're asking for justice. But if justice isn't available through this council, we'll find it ourselves." Commander Rithsal of the Hegemony Coalition, a insectoid species known for their analytical minds, chittered in amusement. "Please, enlighten us. What could humans possibly do that would concern the mighty Korthak Empire?" The human admiral was quiet for a long moment, his eyes scanning the assembled delegates. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. "We'll hunt them." The simple statement sent another wave of laughter through the chamber, but something in the human's tone made a few delegates shift uncomfortably. "Hunt them?" Zalthek snarled. "With what? Your pathetic chemical rockets? Your primitive kinetic weapons?" Admiral Chen leaned forward slightly. "Commander, your people believe war is about overwhelming force and territorial conquest. You fight for glory and expansion. That's not what humans fight for." "Then what do humans fight for?" High Chancellor Vexthera asked, her curiosity overcoming her dismissiveness. "Revenge," Admiral Chen said simply. "When you kill our children, we don't seek territory or glory. We seek to make sure you can never kill anyone's children again. Ever." The chamber had grown quieter now, though many delegates still seemed amused. "You threaten an empire that spans 400 systems," Zalthek growled. "We have ships that could turn your entire homeworld to glass." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "You probably could. And that would be the last thing your empire ever accomplished." "Explain yourself, human," Chancellor Vexithera demanded. Admiral Chen gestured to someone off-screen, and new data appeared on the view screen. Star charts, population figures, industrial capacity reports. Every human colony you've attacked shared their destruction with Earth in real time. 12,000 people calling home to their families as your ships opened fire. 12,000 last words, 12,000 names now carved in stone in our memory halls. The Admiral's voice grew colder with each sentence. "You think war is about fleets and territories, but humans have been perfecting warfare for thousands of years before we ever left our planet. We learned something that apparently no one in this galaxy understands." "And what is that?" Commander Rithsal asked, his compound eyes focusing intently. "War isn't about destroying armies. It's about destroying the will to fight, and humans are very, very good at making enemies lose their will to fight." High Commander Zalthek slammed his clawed hand on his podium. "Enough of this posturing. You have no fleet, no weapons capable of threatening us." Admiral Chen smiled, and somehow that expression was more unsettling than any threat could have been. "Commander, you're thinking like a traditional military power. Fleets, armies, occupied territories. But humans don't need to occupy anything to destroy you." The view screen changed again, showing what appeared to be technical schematics. 6 months ago, we sent probe ships to every major trade route in Korthak space, not to attack anything, just to watch and learn. "Do you know what we discovered?" The chamber was now completely silent. Every delegate focused on the human's words. "Your empire depends entirely on 3 things. Automated mining platforms in asteroid fields, fusion fuel convoys that run on predictable schedules, and communication relays that connect your 400 systems." Admiral Chen's expression grew darker. "All of those things are completely undefended, because you never imagined anyone would be crazy enough to attack infrastructure instead of military targets." "You wouldn't dare," Zalthek hissed, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Commander, we've already started. While I've been giving this speech, human strike teams have destroyed 17 mining platforms in your outer territories. Your empire's fuel production just dropped by 8%. The Korthak delegation erupted in angry roars, but Admiral Chen continued calmly. "Tomorrow, we'll take out 34 communication relays. Your fleet coordination will become a nightmare. Next week, we start targeting fuel convoys. Not the escort ships, just the cargo vessels." High Chancellor Vexithera leaned forward. "Human, what you're describing is terrorism, not warfare." Admiral Chen shook his head. "Chancellor, terrorism targets civilians to create fear. We're targeting military and industrial infrastructure to cripple an empire that murders families. There's a difference." "The Council will intervene," she warned. "We cannot allow—" "The Council already chose not to intervene," Admiral Chen interrupted. "You laughed when we asked for justice. You laughed when we asked for protection, so now we'll provide our own." He gestured again, and the view screen showed a star map with hundreds of red markers scattered throughout Korthak space. "Every one of those markers represents a target we've identified and can reach. Mining stations, fuel depots, communication arrays, shipyard supply lines, orbital manufacturing platforms. None of them are military targets, so none of them are heavily defended." The silence in the chamber had become oppressive. Within 6 months, The Korthak Empire will be completely unable to coordinate their fleet, fuel their ships, or maintain their industrial base. Their 400 systems will be isolated islands, each one slowly running out of resources. High Commander Zalthek's voice was barely controlled fury. The Council will stop you. They'll unite against this madness. Admiral Chen looked directly at Chancellor Vexthara. Will you? Even knowing that stopping us means protecting an empire that murders children for sport. The Chancellor's expression was troubled, but she maintained her composure. The stability of the galaxy, Admiral Chen interrupted, requires that actions have consequences. The Korthak Empire committed genocide against human civilians. If the Council won't punish them, then humans will. This is insanity, Commander Rithsal chittered. You're describing the complete destruction of interstellar civilization. If every species began attacking infrastructure instead of military targets, then maybe empires would think twice before slaughtering innocents, Admiral Chen finished. That's exactly the point. The human admiral stood straighter, his voice carrying across the vast chamber with absolute conviction. Members of the Galaxy Council, you have a choice. You can take action against the Korthak Empire's war crimes, or you can explain to your own people why you allowed humans to demonstrate a new way of warfare that makes traditional military might irrelevant. The view screen flickered with new data, industrial projections, supply chain analyses, economic impact studies. This isn't about humans versus Korthak anymore. This is about proving that in the modern galaxy, any species with enough determination can cripple any empire, regardless of military strength. Is that really the precedent you want set? High Chancellor Vexthara looked around the chamber at the faces of hundreds of delegates representing thousands of worlds. For the first time in her long career, she saw something she'd never seen before in a Galaxy Council session: fear. The human raises disturbing points, she admitted slowly. But surely there must be some middle ground. There was middle ground, Admiral Chen replied. It was called justice through proper channels. You chose not to provide it. The transmission cut out, leaving the Galaxy Council chamber in stunned silence. After a moment, High Commander Zalthek rose to his feet, his reptilian features twisted with rage. The Korthak Empire will not be intimidated by terrorist threats from primitive mammals, he declared. We will increase military patrols and defend our territory. Ambassador Kelnara's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. You're missing the point entirely. They're not threatening your military. They're threatening your entire infrastructure. Let them try, Zalthek snarled. Our empire has endured for millennia. It will not fall to human saboteurs. But as the delegates filed out of the chamber, many were already sending urgent communications to their homeworlds. The humans had introduced a terrifying new concept to galactic warfare: the idea that any enemy, no matter how small, could bring down any empire, no matter how large. The warning had been given. The Galaxy Council had chosen to ignore it. Now they would all learn what happened when humans went hunting. The hunt begins. 3 months had passed since Admiral Chen's warning to the Galaxy Council. In the crystalline command centers scattered across Korthak space, the first signs of humanity's promise were beginning to show. What had started as isolated incidents was becoming a systematic dismantling of an empire. Fleet Admiral Karthex stood in the primary command center of the Korthak homeworld, staring at holographic displays that showed their empire's status. Red indicators blinked across hundreds of systems like a spreading plague. His 4-chambered heart pumped harder as he processed the scope of the damage. Sir, his aide, Commander Veltak, approached cautiously. We've lost another 12 mining platforms in the Theta sector. That brings the total to over 300 destroyed installations in the past month. Karthex's claws scraped against the metal console. The humans weren't attacking military targets at all. Every strike hit industrial infrastructure, supply lines, or communication networks. It was methodical, calculated, and absolutely devastating to their war machine. "How is this possible?" he growled. "Our patrols show no human warships in those sectors." "That's just it, sir. There are no warships. Intelligence suggests they're using small civilian vessels, converted mining ships, even cargo haulers. They jump in, plant explosives, or use portable weapons, then disappear before our response fleets arrive." The fleet admiral studied the tactical display more carefully. Each red marker represented a successful human attack, and the pattern was becoming clear. They weren't random strikes. The humans were systematically targeting every piece of infrastructure that kept the Korthak war machine functioning. "What about our communication relays?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. Commander Veltak's scales shifted to a darker shade, indicating distress. 43% of our long-range communication network has been destroyed. Fleet coordination beyond 3 systems is becoming impossible. Sector commanders are having to operate independently. Karthek slammed his fist on the console, creating a dent in the reinforced metal. "These aren't military tactics. This is sabotage, terrorism." "Sir," Veltak continued carefully, "perhaps that's exactly the point. They're not trying to defeat our military directly. They're trying to make it impossible for our military to function at all." Before the fleet admiral could respond, an urgent alert klaxon began wailing throughout the command center. A junior officer rushed to their station, frantically working at the controls. "Sir, emergency transmission from the Crimson Fang battle group in the Zerion system." The main view screen flickered to life, showing Captain Zexmore's battle-scarred face. Behind him, his ship's bridge was filled with smoke and the red glow of emergency lighting. "Fleet Admiral, we've encountered a human strike team at the Zerion fuel depot," Captain Zexmore reported, his voice strained. "They've destroyed the entire facility along with 17 fuel tankers." "Did you engage them?" Karthex demanded. The captain's expression grew grim. "We tried, sir. They weren't using military vessels. When we moved to intercept, they transmitted a message saying they had planted antimatter charges throughout the depot and would detonate them if we approached." "You let them escape?" Karthex roared. "Sir, the depot supplied fuel for 6 battle groups. If those charges had detonated near our ships..." Captain Zexmore paused, clearly shaken. "They destroyed it anyway, sir, after their ships jumped to hyperspace. The explosion could be seen from 3 systems away." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Commander Veltak reviewed the tactical data, his expression growing more troubled by the moment. "Sir, the Zerion depot was one of our 3 primary fuel distribution centers. Losing it means battle groups 7 through 12 will be operating at half fuel capacity within the week." Fleet Admiral Karthek stared at the holographic display of their empire, watching as more red indicators appeared in real time. Each one represented another piece of their infrastructure being systematically destroyed. "How many humans are we dealing with?" he asked. "Intelligence estimates suggest less than 10,000 individuals spread across all strike teams," Veltak replied. "But, sir, they're not operating like any military force we've encountered. They seem to appear anywhere, anytime, hitting targets we never thought to defend." Another alert sounded, and a different officer called out from across the command center. "Fleet Admiral, we're receiving reports from 17 systems simultaneously. Mining platforms, communication relays, supply convoys, all under attack by human forces." Karthex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the climate-controlled command center. 17 systems? At the same time?" "Yes, sir. And the pattern matches what we've been seeing. No direct military engagement, just infrastructure destruction. They're bleeding us dry without ever facing our fleets in open battle." The fleet admiral studied the tactical display more closely, beginning to understand the true scope of what the humans were doing. This wasn't warfare as the galaxy had ever known it. This was something entirely new and terrifying. "Send a message to High Command," he ordered. "Request immediate reinforcement of all critical infrastructure. Triple the guard patrols on mining operations and fuel convoys." "Sir," Commander Veltak said hesitantly, "that would require reassigning over 60% of our fleet to defensive positions. We'd have to abandon most of our territorial patrols." "Then do it," Karthek snapped. "What good are territorial patrols if we can't fuel our ships or coordinate our movements?" As his staff worked to implement the new defensive strategy, the fleet admiral couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing exactly into the humans' hands. Every ship reassigned to defend infrastructure was a ship that couldn't project power or expand their territory. The Empire was being forced to turn inward, to protect what it had rather than take what it wanted. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Chen stood in the tactical center of the human ship Retribution, watching the same battle unfold from a very different perspective. Holographic displays showed the results of 3 months of carefully coordinated strikes across Korthak space. Admiral, his tactical officer, Commander Sarah Rodriguez, reported with barely contained satisfaction, "Operation Bloodletting is exceeding all projections. Korthak fuel production is down 67%. Their communication network is functioning at 38% capacity, and they've reassigned over half their fleet to defensive positions." Admiral Chen nodded, studying the data with the calm expression of a man watching a chess game play out exactly as planned. "How are our strike teams holding up?" "Minimal casualties," Commander Rodriguez replied. "The Korthak are designed to fight large fleet engagements. They have no doctrine for dealing with small, fast-moving sabotage teams. Most of our people get in and out without ever seeing a Korthak ship." "Good. What about their response patterns?" A new voice answered from across the tactical center. Dr. Amanda Walsh, the mission's xenopsychology specialist, approached with a data pad in hand. "Admiral, we're seeing exactly the behavioral patterns our models predicted. The Korthak military mind is built around overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They're literally incapable of adapting to asymmetric warfare." Admiral Chen allowed himself a slight smile. "Explain." Dr. Walsh activated a holographic display showing Korthak fleet movements over the past 3 months. "Look at this pattern. Every time we hit infrastructure, they respond by sending larger forces to defend similar targets. But they're always reactive, never predictive. They can't anticipate where we'll strike next because they don't understand our strategic objectives." "They think we're trying to weaken them," Commander Rodriguez added. "They don't realize we're trying to change them." Admiral Chen's expression grew more serious. "And the Galaxy Council? Any response?" "Nothing official," Dr. Walsh replied. "But our intelligence suggests several member species are quietly reviewing their own infrastructure security. The implications of our tactics aren't lost on them." The Admiral turned to face his senior staff, his expression grave despite their tactical success. "Remember why we're doing this. 12,000 civilians, including families, murdered without provocation. The Korthak Empire needs to understand that actions have consequences." "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Korthak homeworld. It's addressed to the Human Fleet Command." Admiral Chen straightened. "Put it through." The main view screen activated, showing Fleet Admiral Karthex in what appeared to be a command center. The Korthak leader's reptilian features were twisted with barely controlled rage. "Human Admiral," Karthex began, his words dripping with contempt through the universal translator. "Your cowardly attacks on civilian infrastructure violate every principle of civilized warfare. Face us in honest battle or be branded as the terrorists you are." Admiral Chen stepped forward, his expression calm but his eyes cold as space. "Fleet Admiral, you murdered 12,000 human civilians, including children. You want to talk about civilized warfare? Those were enemy combatants occupying Korthak space," Karthex snarled. "They were families trying to build farms on empty worlds," Admiral Chen replied. "But I'm not interested in debating your justifications," I told the Galaxy Council what would happen if they didn't act. They chose not to listen. Your sabotage campaign will fail, Carthex declared. The Korthak Empire has endured for millennia. We will adapt. Admiral Chen studied the Korthak commander for a moment before responding. Fleet Admiral, you fundamentally misunderstand what we're doing. This isn't a military campaign designed to defeat your empire. This is a lesson designed to teach you something you've never learned. And what lesson is that? That every choice has consequences, Admiral Chen said simply. You chose to murder civilians. Now you get to experience what it feels like when someone methodically dismantles everything you've built, piece by piece. The Korthak Admiral's scales darkened with fury. We will find your strike teams. We will hunt them down. You're welcome to try, Admiral Chen replied. But while you're searching for 10,000 humans scattered across 400 star systems, remember that every day you spend on defense is another day your empire grows weaker. This cannot continue forever, Carthex growled. Admiral Chen's expression grew colder. No, it can't. It will continue until the Korthak Empire publicly acknowledges its war crimes, pays reparations to the families of the victims, and surrenders those responsible for the attacks on human civilians for trial. Never, Carthex roared. Then we'll continue hunting you, Admiral Chen said simply. Every mining platform, every fuel depot, every communication relay, every supply convoy. We'll take apart your empire one bolt at a time until there's nothing left but 400 isolated worlds with no way to talk to each other. The transmission cut out, leaving the Human Tactical Center in contemplative silence. Admiral, Dr. Walsh said quietly, the psychological pressure on their leadership must be enormous. They've never faced an enemy they couldn't intimidate or overwhelm. Admiral Chen nodded. That's the point. The Korthak Empire believes in strength through fear. We're teaching them that sometimes fear cuts both ways. As if to punctuate his words, new alerts began flashing on the tactical displays. Across Korthak space, human strike teams were beginning their night's work. More infrastructure would fall, more supplies would be destroyed, more communication links would be severed. The hunt was just beginning, and the humans were very, very patient predators. The price of ignoring humanity. 8 months after Admiral Chen's warning to the Galaxy Council, the Korthak Empire was dying. Not from military defeat or territorial conquest, but from something far more insidious. The slow collapse of everything that made an interstellar civilization possible. High Chancellor Vexithara stood in her private chambers aboard the council station, reviewing reports that painted a picture of galactic chaos she'd never imagined possible. The holographic displays showed the current state of Korthak space, and it was almost unrecognizable from the mighty empire that had once commanded 400 star systems. Chancellor, her aide, diplomatic attaché Morgan, entered with yet another urgent communiqué. The Korthak delegation has requested an emergency session. Their empire's infrastructure collapse has accelerated beyond all projections. Vexithara's 4 arms moved in the Zephyrian gesture of deep concern. Show me the latest figures. The displays updated with devastating efficiency. Fuel production in Korthak space was down 91%. Their communication network was operating at 14% capacity. Industrial output had dropped to levels not seen in over 1,000 years. Most terrifying of all, over 60 star systems had gone completely dark, unable to communicate with the rest of the Empire. By the eternal stars, Vexithara whispered. In 8 months, the humans have accomplished what would take a traditional military campaign centuries to achieve. It gets worse, Morgan continued. 17 other member species have formally requested enhanced security briefings. They're all asking the same question. How do we defend against human-style asymmetric warfare? Before the Chancellor could respond, her personal communicator chimed with the specific tone reserved for emergency Galaxy Council sessions. She activated it to find the familiar blue-scaled face of her own military advisor, General Kethvar. "Chancellor, you need to see this immediately. The humans have just transmitted a galaxy-wide broadcast." Vexithera's blood ran cold. "Patch it through to my chambers." The holographic displays shifted to show Admiral Chen standing in what appeared to be the same tactical center where he'd delivered his warning 8 months earlier. But now, behind him, the displays showed detailed maps of the Korthak Empire with thousands of red markers indicating destroyed infrastructure. "Citizens of the galaxy," Admiral Chen began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. 8 months ago, the Korthak Empire murdered 12,000 human civilians, including women and children. When we brought this crime to the Galaxy Council, we were laughed at. We were told that humans posed no threat to established galactic powers. The Admiral gestured to the displays behind him. "These are the results of the past 8 months. The Korthak Empire, which once commanded 400 star systems, now struggles to maintain basic communication between its scattered territories." Chancellor Vexithara felt her heart skip a beat. This wasn't just a report to humanity. This was a message to every species in the galaxy. Admiral Chen continued, his tone growing more serious. "We want the galaxy to understand something important. This was not a war of conquest. This was not about territory or resources. This was about consequences." The displays changed to show footage of the human strike teams in action, small groups of humans in unmarked ships, methodically destroying mining platforms, fuel depots, and communication arrays across Korthak space. Every species watching this broadcast should ask themselves, what would happen if humans decided your empire had committed crimes against humanity? How would you defend against an enemy that doesn't want your territory, doesn't care about your military might, and has the patience to dismantle your civilization piece by piece? Vexithara realized she was watching the most terrifying military demonstration in galactic history. Not a show of force, but a show of methodology. "The Korthak Empire learned too late that humans don't fight for glory or expansion," Admiral Chen explained. "We fight for justice. And we are very, very good at making sure justice is served." The transmission shifted to show real-time tactical data of human operations across Korthak space. Hundreds of simultaneous strikes, perfectly coordinated across vast distances. Today marks the final phase of Operation Bloodletting. In the next 72 hours, human strike teams will complete the destruction of the Korthak Empire's remaining industrial infrastructure. When we are finished, they will be reduced to 400 isolated worlds with no way to threaten anyone ever again. Chancellor Vexithara's aide was frantically working at a secondary console. "Chancellor, we're receiving emergency transmissions from 47 different member species. They're all demanding immediate council intervention." Admiral Chen's voice cut through their discussion as the broadcast continued. "But we want the galaxy to know that this ends here. The Korthak Empire will be allowed to survive as long as they never again threaten civilian populations. They will exist as a living reminder of what happens when you make humans angry." The Admiral's expression grew darker. "However, if any other species believes they can follow the Korthak example and murder human civilians without consequences, they are welcome to test us. We have detailed tactical analysis of every major empire's infrastructure. We know how to find you. We know how to hurt you. And we have demonstrated that we have the will to do both." The transmission ended, leaving Vexithera's chambers in stunned silence. "Chancellor," Morgan said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Korthak homeworld. High Commander Zaltek requests immediate council mediation." Vexithera closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process the magnitude of what had just occurred. In 8 months, the humans had fundamentally changed the nature of galactic warfare. They had proven that any determined species could bring down any empire, regardless of military superiority. Put him through, she said finally. The display showed High Commander Zalthek, but the proud Korthak warrior she remembered from 8 months ago was gone. His scales were pale, his posture defeated, and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who had watched his entire world crumble. "Chancellor," Zalthek began, his voice barely above a whisper, "the Korthak Empire formally requests Galaxy Council intervention in the human campaign against our territory." "Commander," Vexithara replied carefully, 8 months ago, you assured this council that humans posed no threat to your empire. What has changed?" Zalthek's composure finally broke. "Everything has changed. These humans don't fight like anyone in the galaxy. They don't want our territory, they don't want our surrender, they just want to destroy everything we've built." "What exactly are you requesting from the council?" "Make them stop," Zalthek pleaded. "Our empire is dying. Not from military defeat, but from starvation. Our worlds can't communicate with each other. Our ships are running out of fuel. Our people are beginning to panic." Vexithara studied the broken Korthak commander. 8 months ago, you had the opportunity to accept human demands for justice regarding the civilian massacres. You refused. "We couldn't have known," Zalthek began. "You couldn't have known that murdering families would have consequences," Vexithara interrupted. "Commander, the humans told you exactly what they intended to do. You chose not to believe them." Before Zalthek could respond, new alerts began flashing throughout Vexithara's chambers. Her aide rushed to the communications console. "Chancellor, we're receiving reports from across Korthak space. The humans have begun what they're calling the final phase. They're hitting every remaining piece of critical infrastructure simultaneously." On the displays, hundreds of red indicators began appearing in real time across the holographic map of Korthak territory. Each one represented another installation being destroyed, another link in their civilization being severed. "Please," Zalthek begged, "make them stop. The Korthak Empire formally acknowledges its crimes against human civilians. We offer reparations, trials for those responsible. Anything they demand." Vexithara felt a heavy weight settle on her hearts. "Commander, I'm afraid you're 8 months too late." As if summoned by her words, a new transmission override activated. Admiral Chen appeared on the display, his expression as calm and determined as ever. "Chancellor Vexithara," he said, nodding respectfully, "I assume you're speaking with High Commander Zalthek about his empire's current situation." "Admiral," she replied carefully, "the Korthak Empire has just offered to meet all of your original demands. Full acknowledgement of crimes, reparations, and trials for those responsible." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment, then shook his head. "Chancellor, 8 months ago, that offer might have prevented this. But since then, the Korthak Empire has forced us to demonstrate something that can't be undone." "What do you mean?" "We've shown the galaxy that traditional military power is obsolete," Admiral Chen explained. "Any species with sufficient motivation can now bring down any empire. The Korthak Empire isn't just being punished for its crimes, it's being used as a teaching tool." High Commander Zalthek leaned forward desperately. "Human, please! Our empire is dying. Millions of worlds depend on the infrastructure you're destroying." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "Commander, you should have thought about that before you turned human children into target practice." "But the galaxy needs stability," Chancellor Vexithara interjected. "If empires can be brought down by small strike teams, it will lead to chaos." "No, Chancellor," Admiral Chen replied. "It will lead to accountability. For the first time in galactic history, empires will have to consider whether their actions might provoke a response they can't defend against." The Admiral gestured to something off-screen, and new data appeared on the displays. "The final phase of Operation Bloodletting will conclude in 18 hours. When it's finished, the Korthak Empire will cease to exist as an interstellar power. They will be 400 isolated worlds, each one struggling to maintain basic civilization. "This is genocide," Zalthek whispered. Admiral Chen's eyes grew cold. "Commander, genocide is what you did to human civilians. What we're doing is justice. Your people will survive, but your empire's ability to threaten others will not." The transmission ended, leaving the Galaxy Council's highest representatives staring at displays that showed the systematic dismantling of one of the galaxy's oldest empires. "Chancellor," Morgan said quietly, "what do we do now?" Vexithara looked at the broken Korthak commander, then at the tactical displays showing humanity's inexorable campaign. In 8 months, a species that had barely achieved interstellar travel had demonstrated that they could bring down any empire in the galaxy. "We learn," she said finally. "We learn that the humans were right. Actions have consequences, and we pray that we never give them a reason to turn those consequences on us." As the final phase of Operation Bloodletting began across Korthak space, every species in the galaxy watched in silent terror. The humans had kept their promise. They had hunted the Korthak Empire until there was nothing left to hunt. And now, every empire in the galaxy knew that humanity was watching, waiting, and perfectly capable of doing it again.